Today we're gonna look at a project of mine I've been working on over the last couple of weeks. Mind you, not alone. I've had a lot of help from my friend Meris, and to be fair, I could never have done this without him. I definitely lack the skills about coding, programming, whatever you want to call it, in terms of Google Sheets. So big shout out to him. As I said, this would never have been possible without him. So what are we going to look at today? This is an automated warm-up calculator for competition day in powerlifting. This tool is meant to make your job a little easier, or just actually take it out of your hands of when to take your warm-ups and when to take your first attempts. It's going to tell you when to start with your warm-ups, when to do your next warm-ups, and of course when you have to take your opener, based on a bit of data which you either or plan before you get to the meet. So this is like your warm-ups themselves, how much rest you want to take between your warm-ups, and your attempt selection, and the data you only get at competition day, which is your position in the flight. And to be honest, actually you get the data about how big each flight is, how many athletes are in each flight before competition, but of course you can fill this out on meet day as well. I've included a set of instructions here which you can use as well to get a grasp of how this works. You don't have to watch the video. This one is going to be just as good to understand how it works. It's step by step. Each step builds on the previous one, and it should be pretty easy to grasp. So how does this work? If you want to use it for yourself, this is totally free to use for anyone who wants to use it. You can click on File, make a copy, and use it for yourself. You can change what the sheet looks like. You can put your own logo in it, change the fonts, change the colors, whatever. Before we get into the calculations themselves, I've included a normal standardized attempt selection sheet. I think this is probably something you've seen before. If you're a coach or an athlete, if you've handled people at meets before, it has got all the good stuff, all the important stuff. Obviously your warm-ups, how many reps, the weight, of course you can change this to pounds if you want to, how much rest you want to take between each warm-up, and of course your attempts themselves. So this is also included here, so you can just print it out. Where's print? Should be here somewhere. Here. If you don't want to use the calculator itself. But now we're going to get into the calculator. So I've designed this in a way where every cell that is colored in blue should be filled out, so it's easy to use and you know what to put in. Of course, you got athlete name, and then you have the competition here. This is where you fill in your age division. I've included all age divisions of the IPF and USAPL. I've included all weight classes of the IPF and USAPL, weight classes that appear twice. That usually appear twice because they're the same for male and female. I've only put in once to make it easier to use. This is where you put in the flight you're in, so A, B, C, D, whatever, and your lot number. This is meant for your last competition PRs, autumn competition PRs. You put in your goals and notes here, rack height and body weight for squat, bench, safeties. Obviously you're gonna do this at competition day, or if you know the rack height before, you can do it before. Now, the centerpiece is obviously warm-ups themselves and the attempts. I've made it so that based on the 3A, the best possible scenario, third attempt, it automatically calculates your second attempt and your openers. Of course, this is subject to change. You don't have to use these values. So if you put in like 200 for 3A squat attempt, it automatically calculates your opener and your second attempt based on the values of that your second attempt is 96% of your third and your first attempt is 91% of your third attempt. But of course you can change these values up. So if you want to take like 180, 190 and then 200, just put in these values and change them up. And your 2B, 2C and 3B, 3C, so your alternative attempts, are always 2.5 kilos below your planned 2A and 3A attempts. So yeah. Now, this is where you fill in warm-ups. So obviously reps, the weight itself, and the rest time in between. So let's say we plan to take 20, then you plan to take 70 and then 120, and you're gonna do, 5 reps and 5, and then 3. This is where you put in how much rest you want to take. In this case, how much rest between 70 and 120. So let's say you want to take 5 minutes. And this is where you would put in how much rest you want to take between 120 and whatever the next warm-up is going to be. So let's say it's 5 minutes as well. So now we're going to fast forward to an already filled out attempt sheet. So we don't have to do all of this right now. But obviously all of this you should fill up before competition, so you're ready. You should plan your warm-ups, how many of them you want to take. You should plan how much rest you want to take between each warm-up, what the weight actually is going to be, and how many reps you're going to do with it, although the rep part is probably not the most important one. And of course your attempts themselves. So let's fast forward to a sheet that is already filled out. This is a recent example of the last competition I did with one of my athletes. So these were the weights we were taking. We planned all the warm-ups before the competition. We planned all the attempts. We filled in all the important stuff that we were supposed to fill in. Now we're gonna get to the centerpiece of the calculator itself. And this is the amount of athletes in each flight, how many flights there are, which flight you or your athlete is in, the intermission length between squats and bench and deadlift, and the start time of the whole group. Most of this, except the part where you fill in your position in the flight, you will already know before competition. So you're gonna know how many athletes are in each flight, how many flights there are, and so on and so forth. Let's say in this case, the athlete is in flight B of a group that consists of A, B, and C. In this case, you would put in my flight 2 because B is the second flight. So don't put in the letter, put in the number. If you're in C, D, and E, and you're in flight E, you put in 3 because E is the third flight of all the 3 flights. You can put in up to 4 flights, of course, because that's the maximum number of flights within one group. If you don't use all 4, just leave the ones you don't use blank. In this case, let's say we got 3 flights. Let's say the first flight consists of 8 athletes. The second one consists of 9. The third one, let's say, consists of a crazy number like 12. You're probably not going to encounter a situation like this in real life because most of the time the flights are evened out. So the times between don't differ as much. But of course, this was actually very important to me to make this calculator work, even when the flight sizes are vastly different and differ a lot. But of course, this is just going to work just as well for flights that are the same size, even if it's 8, 8, and 8. But let's stick with this example. Let's say it's 8, 9, and 12. Now you put in the flight you're in, which in this case is B, which is 2. The intermission length, which is usually 10 minutes if you got 2 or more flights, or 20 minutes if it's 1. But of course you can change it up to any amount of time you want to. You just gotta use this format, so 0, 0, and then the amount of time. If it's 15, it's 15. If it's 10, it's 10, and so on. Then you put in the start time for the whole group. Let's say in this case it's 10 in the morning. You just put in 10. If it's 10:30, you put in 10:30, 11, whatever. And now all this that we already filled in is public knowledge before competition day. The rest you will find out on meet day, because obviously all athletes put in their openness at weigh-ins, and as the weigh-ins go on or after weigh-ins, or the position of the flight, the order of the flight is going to be made public. And you're going to see this probably in lifting cast software or the speaker's table. Let's say in our example, our athlete is for flight B, which consists of 9 athletes. He's out 5th on squat, 4th on bench, and 7th on deadlift. And now it's going to do the magic and calculate when to take your warm-ups and when your openers. So in this case, you're supposed to start with your warm-ups at 9:56 because your opener is at 10:28. You're going to start with your warm-ups and bench on 11:32 because your opener is at 12:04, and same thing with deadlifts. Start the warm-ups at 13:16, open with your opener at 13:44. All of this obviously is going to change depending on what you put in. Let's say we cut a flight down and we change the order. Let's say it's 10 and 10 or 10 and 9. This is going to change it all. If you change up your position, it's going to change all of it as well for every single lift. If you change which flight you're in, obviously it's going to change as well. If you change your intermission length or the start time, all this is going to change as well. So if you already got all this filled out before competition, you just got to take 10 seconds to fill in your position in the flight, and the calculator is automatically going to calculate when to start taking your warm-ups, when to take each subsequent warm-up and your opener. Now, before we finish, very important for me to mention, in theory, all of this works out perfectly. All the numbers add up. It's just basic math. It works out. In practice, sometimes it doesn't because things happen that you might not expect. Maybe some athletes change their first attempts, which in order will change the order of the flight. Number of athletes may vary. Athletes drop out, intermission periods might be inaccurate. The whole calculator is based upon the expectation that each athlete is going to take 1 minute for each one of their attempts. Obviously, this might not be the case. Sometimes it takes longer, sometimes it takes a shorter amount of time. Sometimes the spotters are faster and the loaders are faster or slower. In this case, you can manually put in new values. So let's say you know 11:07 for the start of your flight in bench is not going to work out because the intermission length is going to be longer. Then you just put in a new number. Let's say you put in 11:17 because you know it's going to be 10 minutes late. Then it's still going to calculate all this correctly. Or you can directly, if you know, change the time which your opener is going to take place. Let's say it's 11:21, and it's still going to calculate all the warm-ups perfectly. This is what I want to mention. You should know how to calculate your warm-ups. You shouldn't rely 100% on this calculator, and in my opinion, you should always carry like a physical sheet of paper with you, which is why I've included this section here where you can actually print it out, because things might not work out the way you expect them to on competition day, and things could change. And that's why it's important to not completely rely on this. Obviously, as I mentioned, it's going to work out in theory. It should work out perfectly, but meet day rarely works out perfectly. So, as I mentioned before, if you want to use this one, just click on File, make a copy, use it for yourself. You can do whatever you want with it. I'm hoping that for some of you, this might be helpful for taking some of the load off your back when it comes to timing your warm-ups, when to do them, because for me personally, this is always the most stressful part of the competition. And for me personally, it takes a lot of load on my shoulders if I don't have to do this myself. I will be very glad about any kind of feedback, whether it's positive or negative, about how I could improve this. And as I said before, I hope this helps out on competition day, and I hope you enjoy it.